It's a thin line between love and friendship, reads the tagline for the 2011 film Something Borrowed. But is it though? I have never hated a movie more than I hate this movie. I don't know why this movie makes me so angry, but it does. Like everything about it just pisses me off. Even though this movie came out over 10 years ago and wasn't exactly, beloved by critics, I have moments where I'll randomly think about this movie and get mad all over again. I think we all have a movie like that we just irrationally hate. And it continues to just live rent-free in your head. Something Borrowed was based on a 2005 novel by Emily Giffin. Not Griffin, even though that's what I've been calling her for the past 10 years. When I bought the book, I hoped maybe, for some reason, that the book would be better. But it's not. The movie draws from some already terrible source material and somehow makes it worse. Like that terrible Amy Adams Netflix movie. No, not that one. Yes, that one. Everyone was so shocked at how terrible that movie was, even though the book that the movie is based on is also fucking terrible. I read it. Maybe people should start reading the book first before deciding to make a movie about it. Like, both of these books were bestsellers when they came out, and it's like Hollywood sees a bestseller and automatically assumes, well, it must be good, let's make it into a movie. And it's like, no, don't, actually. Not all books that make the bestseller list are even that good. All they have to do is just read it first and then read it a couple more times if they're not convinced of how terrible it is, and then throw it in the garbage where it belongs.
More like belongs in the trash.
Sorry, I must have missed that one.
The movie centers around Rachel, played by Miss Utopia herself, Jennifer Goodwin. First thing to know about Rachel is that she is entering a very stressful period in her life. She's turning 30, and as we all know, that's a tragedy, of course. At least that's how the story treats it. We start off with Rachel getting an expected surprise party thrown by her BFF, Darcy. Although she's only pretending to be surprised because she knows what her best friend Darcy, played by Kate Hudson, is planning. Immediately from the beginning, we get the sense that Darcy, her blonde counterpart, loves attention, and even at her best friend's party, wants all eyes to be on her. We learn that Rachel and Darcy go way back to the sandbox, and have been friends ever since. We meet Ethan, played by John Krasinski, who is our pessimistic, tell-it-like-it-is, smart-ass character. We meet Marcus, played by Steve Howey. You might know him from a little show called Shameless, although I hope he is ashamed of being in this movie. He is a family friend of Dex, Darcy's fiance, played by Colin Egglesfield. I think the writers felt naming him Dex would make him more interesting than what he is, but he is not. They thought casting someone who looked like Tom Cruise would make him more interesting, but it did not. But to get the backstory out of the way, essentially Rachel met Dex first in law school, and then she introduced him to Darcy one night at a bar, who swiftly stole him right from under Rachel. So after Darcy goes home drunk and Dex returns to get her purse, they decide to go out for drinks, which leads to...
Now I remember why I had such a crush on you in law school.
No, you didn't.
Oh, come on, you knew.
Which then leads to...
I was just a...
They, of course, wake up the next morning looking more beautiful than anyone I've ever seen who just got drunk the night before, and...
It's an emergency, and I think Dex is cheating on me, and I know it sounds so crazy, but hot people, they get cheated on sometimes.
Rachel then begins to continuously lie to her best friend's face while carrying on an affair with her fiancé, who for some reason is still planning to marry this woman while also making it clear that he wants to be with Rachel. We get moments where Darcy, who is admittedly not a good friend, does something shady which then empowers Rachel to continue her affair with Dex. After they share another lame-o kiss, they plan to, spend time together while in the Hamptons, which I don't know what their plan was if Darcy was going to be there. Then the most predictable thing happens. They don't get to spend much time together because, Darcy is there. There's an annoying scene where Rachel is watching them walk on the beach and they have a cute romantic moment. She gets so jealous that she gets up and leaves. Girl, why did you think you were going to be able to spend alone time with him? He's there with his fiance. Remember your best friend? Did you forget he was engaged to your best friend? Did you forget that he was cheating and that you were participating in the cheating? I guess she doesn't know. Ethan catches on to what's going on. Speaking of Ethan, when Ethan finds out about all of this, he cheerleads her bad decisions because he has a personal vendetta against Darcy, which isn't touched on enough. Oh, he also says this.
Oh, I can tell you this. If the roles were reversed, Darcy wouldn't even hesitate.
So remember, guys, it's okay to do something bad to someone you care about as long as you know in your heart that they would do the same thing to you. So even though our main leads are all terrible, the movie tries to make us sympathize a little bit by introducing Dex's parents. We learn that Dex comes from an extremely rich family. Like halfway through the movie, he and Darcy are mansion hunting. Mansion hunting. And this is after he and Rachel have slept together for a second time, by the way. Dex's mom apparently struggles with severe depression, and him getting married is the only thing that's making her happy because, well, you know how women are. There's also a scene where his parents catch him and Rachel together while Darcy is out of town, and his dad says this.
Now, whatever's going on between you and that girl, you stop it now.
Dad.
No. You know what I'm talking about. It's not the kind of people we are.
It actually is the kind of people you are, apparently. This plot point is dumb. It's just dumb. Again, it is never explained why Darcy is the one woman that he, for some reason, just needs to marry. I feel like the writers just threw this in so we could feel bad for Dex when we really shouldn't. He carried on an affair with his fiance's best friend, and instead of just breaking off the engagement with her immediately after the first night, he continues to string her along when he knows he doesn't love her and doesn't want to marry her. Like, that's fucking mean. He's taking her mansion hunting. Why would you go mansion hunting with a woman you can't stand? Did I forget to mention how obvious it is that he can't stand her? Like, why did you propose to her? Why do you want her? We don't know. Say what you want about Darcy. She is selfish and stuck up and shallow. And I definitely wouldn't want to be her friend, but she doesn't deserve that. I don't think anyone does. Another way the show tries to justify Rachel and Dex's actions is by revealing to us that Darcy also cheated on Dex.
So it's okay that I kind of cheated on him a little bit?
With whom?
Well, he was a guy from work, and it was nothing. You know me, it was just sex. Plus, Dex hasn't had sex with me since before the 4th of July.
See, now it's fine, you guys. It's fine what they're doing, and they really shouldn't feel guilty. When Ethan finds out about this, he decides to get a moral conscience and says she should totally tell Dex, but only because he is eager to see Darcy get her heart broken because he hates her. Again, this is not harped on enough. I don't necessarily blame Ethan for not liking Darcy. Again, she seems like an asshole. But this hatred he has for her is weird. Like, he chooses to hang around her, but talks shit about her constantly. At least Rachel is actually her friend. A shitty friend, but a friend nonetheless. If you can't stand her that badly, stop hanging around her. Stop going to her beach house. We learn in this scene that Darcy lied about getting into Notre Dame, which I guess is where Rachel always wanted to go.
Right? You're not kidding? Did you see her acceptance letter?
What are you talking about?
Rachel, did you see the acceptance letter? Because I didn't. Rachel, come on. She never got into Notre Dame.
So because Darcy lied about getting into some stupid college when she was a teenager, that is proof that she is a horrible person who deserves to be severely betrayed by her best friend. After an aggressive game of badminton takes place and Ethan gets a racket in the face, Rachel runs through the rain thinking back to that night with her, Dex, and Darcy and decides to go back and tells Dex,
Years ago, that night, I shouldn't have left. It wasn't okay what happened. I love you. Cancel the wedding.
I can't.
Rachel goes to London where Ethan now lives. Darcy calls her and demands she come back because the wedding is just around the corner. But uh-oh, someone learned the word no.
You need to get back here right now. Right now. Darcy, right now. No.
And we get our PG-13 F-bomb moment.
What the fuck? You mean
In the next scene, Rachel says that she wishes she could be someone's first choice. And the movie assuages this by having Ethan confess that he always liked her. The next morning, Rachel tells Ethan she's going back home and then reflects on her relationship with Darcy.
I have always thought it was Darcy who took things from me, but really it was just me who was giving everything up to her.
Kind of an interesting moment that would have been great if the movie had just ended there, but this is a rom-com, so it can't. When Rachel returns home, Dex shows up on her doorstep. She, who has recently grown a backbone, tells him,
Can't do this anymore. She deserves better. So do you. So do I.
God damn it, Rachel, why couldn't you have just stayed there? He tells her that he finally called off the wedding and her backbone disappears. That's enough for her, apparently. He apologizes to her and they kiss.
Rachel,
open up.
Instead of just pretending like she's not home, Dex hides and she lets Darcy in. Darcy says she called off the wedding and then tells her that she is pregnant with Marcus's baby and that everything worked out how it should. That is until...
Is that Dex's jacket?
Darcy angrily bursts through the apartment searching for Dex. She screams at him, she screams at Rachel.
I hate you. I hate you.
And she leaves. Cut to some months later, they run into each other on the sidewalk. You'll notice Rachel's terrible wig has been straightened and combed down because when you're 30 and a man finally decides to be with you, you can finally start caring about your appearance. Darcy continues to insist that she is happy, and Rachel just smiles at her creepily the whole time and says she doesn't feel guilty about what she did, but is sorry that she hurt her, which is a very interesting thing to say. The movie ends with, I guess, her and Darcy being cool with each other and then her meeting Dex at some bench. They walk off together and they... never have problems again. The end.
What the fuck?
So, remember when I said the movie draws from some already bad source material? Well, I read the source material, so you don't have to. From the beginning, it is established that Darcy and Rachel are complete opposites. You know, being blonde and brunette and all. Rachel was the unlucky brunette and Darcy was the pretty, popular blonde who always got what she wanted because only blondes get whatever they want. I was in the 5th grade the first time I thought about turning 30. My best friend Darcy and I came across a perpetual calendar in the back of the phone book where you could look up any date in the future and by using this little grid, determine what day of the week would be. So we located our birthdays in the following year. Mine in May and hers in September. I got Wednesday a school night. She got a Friday. A small victory, but typical. Darcy was always the lucky one. Her skin tanned more quickly, her hair feathered more easily, and she didn't need braces. Her moonwalk was superior, as were her cartwheels and her front handsprings. I couldn't do a front handspring at all. She had a better sticker collection, more Michael Jackson pins, Forenza sweaters in turquoise, red, and peach. My mother allowed me none, said they were too trendy and expensive, and a pair of $50 Guess jeans with zippers at the ankles. Ditto. Darcy had double pierced ears and a sibling. Even if it was just a brother, it was better than being an only child, as I was. And that's just on the first page. She then goes on to say how she was at least a few months older than Darcy, and that she would never quite catch up. Like, alright, Rachel. I shared my fantasy with Darcy as we discovered that her 30th birthday fell on a Monday. Bummer for her. I watched her purse her lips as she processed this information. Yeah, I'm sure it was devastating. Throughout the first chapter, Rachel talks about how she wasted her 20s and hoped that by the time she turned 30, she would be married with children. Then she says, I realize 30 is just a number, that you're only as old as you feel and all of that. I also realize that in the grand scheme of things, 30 is still young. But it's not that young. It is past the most ripe childbearing years, for example. It is too old to, say, start training for an Olympic medal. Even in the best die of old age scenario, you are still about 1/3 of the way to the finish line. So the movie stays true to the book in the sense that Rachel is deeply unhappy with her life and is envious of her best friend over incredibly superficial things like what day your birthday falls on and how fast your skin can get tan. Rachel talks about being lonely in a large city despite having plenty of friends. I am alone in a city of millions. I have plenty of friends as proven by the solid turnout tonight. Friends to rollerblade with, friends to summer with in the Hamptons, friends to meet on a Thursday night after work for a drink or 2 or 3. And I have Darcy, my best friend from home, who was all of the above. But everybody knows that friends are not enough, although I often claim they are just to save face around my married and engaged friends. So here I am on the brink of a new decade, realizing that being alone makes my 30s daunting, and being 30 makes me feel more alone. Now this is all fine. I have no problem with this. Rachel wanting a family and a husband and feeling lonely is completely understandable and relatable for a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with wanting partnership and wanting kids, obviously, and if Rachel is feeling lonely despite having a lot of friends, that is a very valid feeling to have. I think the problem is the way this book and the movie essentially confirms this worldview that once you hit 30, you better lock down a man and start pushing out babies because that biological clock is ticking, which is a very 80s sentiment. Like, that's the message that is seeping through this book and the movie. In the second chapter, we get a subplot that is written out of the movie, wherein we learn that Rachel had a crush on Ethan in the 5th grade and that Darcy decided that she liked him as well, which made Rachel angry. Darcy apparently passed Ethan a note asking him which of them he liked and to check a box by one of their names. Rachel felt he must have checked Darcy's name as they were a couple by recess. In my mind, it didn't matter that Darcy and Ethan never kissed, or that it was only the 5th grade, or that they broke up 2 weeks later when Darcy lost interest and decided that she liked Doug Jackson again, or that, as my mother told me for comfort, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. It only mattered that Darcy stole Ethan from me. Perhaps she did it because she really did change her mind about him. That's what I told myself so I would stop hating her. But more likely Darcy took Ethan just to show me that she could. Like, Rachel holds a grudge against Darcy for something petty that happened in the 5th grade. And even though Darcy does appear to kind of suck as a human being, even in adulthood, she did that when she was like 11 or 12. It just seems weird to hold something like that against someone who was pretty young when they did it. This aspect of the story just feels weird. It's essentially there to sort of downplay and excuse what she has just done with Dex. It's also one of the first instances in the book that is used to turn the reader against Darcy, so that you don't feel bad for her when her BFF sleeps with her fiancé. How else are you supposed to relate to Rachel? Obviously, Emily knew that, Rachel is the protagonist and this is a romantic story and we're supposed to be rooting for her. But I just simply couldn't. Even in the book, I could not stand her as a character. And listen, I am a feminist, okay? I support women's wrongs. Not their rights, just their wrongs. I love female characters that aren't all perfect and good. I love female characters that have layers and are messy and do things that I don't agree with. That's why I love Rebecca Bunch from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, or Sally Reed from Barry, or Molly from Insecure, Fiona from Shameless, Ingrid from Ingrid Goes West, Tar from Tar. I love a female character that is just as messy and complicated as me, or even more complicated. So I should like Rachel, but I think the reason I can't stand her is because, one, she's not a well-written character. She has no personality or goals, really. And I don't know why I'm supposed to be rooting for her. The only way the story can get us to relate to her is by juxtaposing her behavior with Darcy's. Emily wants us to like Rachel by default, essentially. And two, she constantly acts like she's owed Dex's dick because she liked him first. Like, that's the name of the book. Something borrowed. Now, admittedly, Darcy probably did know that Rachel liked Dex, and that was rude and shysty of her.
To see her throwing herself at him in Mexico, bitch, you're shysty. You're so fake.
But, like, Dex flirted back, so she didn't steal him. But the whole Ethan thing is also why we're supposed to feel like, yes, she is owed a man. Because Darcy stole the first guy she liked and was able to get him back, and now she's stolen another one of her crushes. There's even a deleted scene in the movie where Ethan tells her about the whole 5th grade note passing situation or whatever the fuck.
You are her ex-boyfriend.
What?
6th grade, Darcy wrote you a note asking which one of us you liked, Darcy or me. And you chose Darcy, genius. You picked her over me.
Your name was never on that note. I remember because she wrote, if you chose me, I'll let you go to second base. Wow, so all this time she led you to believe that your name was on that note. Kind of makes you feel sorry for her, really.
Actually, it kind of makes you feel sorry for both of them. This is presented as a closure moment for her, I guess. In the book, there's a section after that whole subplot about Ethan in 5th grade and whatever, where Rachel, imagines this being like a court case and plays out how a jury would respond to this situation. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in a sense, Darcy Roan had this coming to her. What goes around comes around. Perhaps this is her comeuppance. I picture the faces of the jury. They are not swayed. The male jurors look bewildered, as if they missed the point altogether. Does the prettiest girl always get the boy? That is precisely the way the world should work. The only juror who seems moved by the Ethan tale is a slightly overweight girl with a severe bob the color of day-old coffee. What the fuck?
Her hair is brown, the color of shit.
She slouches in the corner of the jury box, occasionally shoving her glasses up on her beak of a nose. I have tapped into this girl's empathy, her sense of justice. She is secretly satisfied by what I did. Maybe because she, too, has a friend like Darcy, a friend who always gets everything she wants. Why does she have to be slightly overweight? Like, it's like Emily Giffin thinks that all ugly chicks have a hot best friend that they secretly hate. And only women who aren't conventionally attractive would be okay with this sort of behavior because they hate women who are more conventionally attractive than they are. And then there's the baby logic of, oh, the prettiest girl should always win. Like, who talks like that? Another way they try to separate Rachel and Darcy is by doing the classic Madonna horror complex trope. Rachel says that Darcy lost her V card during her sophomore year and that she had a lot of boyfriends. Like, a lot. Rachel didn't lose her virginity until her senior year of high school. I only bring this up because it does seem like it's trying to make Rachel more morally superior because she didn't get around as much. So Rachel is like Brenda and Darcy is like Kelly. Rachel totally was that girl who was like,
How many girls get to have sex for the first time with someone they love?
like congratulating herself on not being slutty like all the other girls. Another thing this book and this movie does is it perpetuates this unfair and unfortunate idea that if you're a single woman and you get to a certain age and you still have no husband, you need to start lowering your standards and lock down a husband before all your eggs dry up. To put it as crudely as possible. Like, Rachel is extremely privileged. She has a high-paying job. She lives in a nice apartment in fucking New York. And she talks about how she has all these friends to do things with, which most people would kill for. But none of that really matters because she doesn't have a man in her life. So then the story has to overstate how old Rachel is to really put it into perspective how sad it is that she's alone.
I'm past my prime childbearing years.
So in my Soul Food video, I talked about how Vanessa Williams' character, Terry, was sort of vilified for being a career woman with no kids and already being divorced once. Now, even though Terry was currently married in the movie until the end, the fact that she cares more about her career than having children and is on husband number 2 was sort of presented as a cautionary tale, perhaps. A similar thing is happening in Something Borrowed, where the movie and the book are saying that being ambitious and focusing too much on your career will cost you the opportunity to get a husband, and in Terry's case, to keep a husband. There's a character that is in the movie named Hillary. She's one of Rachel and Darcy's longtime friends. Apparently, Hillary dated a really nice and smart guy named Corey, and they dated for 4 years. But then they broke up because Hillary felt that he wasn't the one. Darcy, being the amazing advice giver that she is, tells her that she may regret that decision when she reaches her 30s. Rachel says that she was initially annoyed at Darcy's tactless advice, but then changed her tune when she saw how Hillary was back on the blind dating scene, while her ex has moved into a Tribeca loft with a 23-year-old who looks like Cameron Diaz. Because of course she looks like Cameron Diaz. Rachel then says that she doesn't seem to be in a hurry to find a Corey replacement, as if she needs to. So it's implying that if you're a woman and you're in a relationship with a cool guy, but you just don't feel the spark or just don't think he's the one, you should marry him anyway because once you reach your 30s, it's slim pickings. Which, like, I'm 26, the fuck do I know? But we don't know exactly what it was that made Hillary feel like Corey wasn't the one. But if she didn't feel like the relationship was going anywhere, what's wrong with that? She's not allowed to break up with him because he seemed great. If she didn't feel like he was the one, then she didn't feel like he was the one. It's that simple. People shouldn't do things that make them unhappy. And if a relationship is not doing it for you, you should end it. And people shouldn't be all, I told you so, because you're still struggling to find the one. I just don't think people should feel like they have to just settle because of their age. That's fucking bleak. The book also emphasizes the fact that Darcy apparently is not only the root of all evil, but the root of all of Rachel's problems. When Rachel talks about the Notre Dame thing in the book, she says that Darcy screwed her over during some pivotal moments in her upbringing. That being her first love and her college dreams. I mean, in that first passage, she says that Darcy tanned more easily than her. Like, that is some deep jealousy if you're comparing how fast you tan compared to your friend. That's a lot. And that is my other big issue with this story as a whole. The book and the movie make it seem like Darcy, because she's vain, because she continues to lie about Notre Dame, which is honestly very weird. But because of that, she is the worst person in the world and isn't worthy of empathy. But Rachel, who is equally flawed, but in different ways, is. This is a near 30-year-long friendship, and Rachel has spent almost every moment resenting the shit out of Darcy. And again, that doesn't make her a bad person. Jealousy and insecurity are human things, and I'm not trying to mock or vilify someone for being insecure and jealous. We can't always control how we feel about other people, but being deeply jealous of your best friend and secretly hating them for years is not healthy on your part either. Like, Darcy does prove to be extremely inconsiderate, competitive, a little vindictive, and kind of obnoxious. But Rachel is also a deeply unhappy person who clearly struggles with low self-esteem and is projecting so much onto Darcy. She is blaming all of her issues on her, and we're supposed to relate to Rachel even though she's a 30-year-old woman who can, by this point, choose who her friends are. Like, I had a close friend from the first grade up until my senior year of high school, but she was not a good friend. She was really mean, actually. Was weirdly jealous of me, especially if I, got my hair done and looked really cute. She would get mad at me. I'm not kidding. She would go and tell people secrets that I told her in confidence whenever she got mad at me over something really stupid. And I stayed friends with her for years because I had no one else. I had terrible anxiety and was shy and just sort of stayed friends with her because it's all I was used to. So I very much relate to Rachel in that sense. Sometimes you just stay in bad relationships, whether platonic or romantic, because it's comfortable. And it means you have a friend, and that's better than being alone. But I stopped being friends with that person after high school. Rachel is 29 before she realizes that she doesn't care about Darcy anymore. And it's not like she didn't have other friends. She had Ethan in the movie, and in the book she had Hillary and a couple other women. I can't remember their names right now. I think what separates Rachel from other better, messy female characters is that they typically aren't rewarded for doing shitty things. Rebecca does some pretty wild and fucked up shit to Josh during the first 2 seasons. But the writers make it clear that she is not right or justified in what she's doing. It empathizes with her, but it doesn't just excuse her for being immature and inappropriate. Rachel literally dissuades Darcy from breaking off the engagement, even though she knows that Dex has been unfaithful and that Darcy has also been unfaithful.
You should marry him.
She had a small moment where she could have slightly redeemed herself, and then she just didn't. Another way the story tries to downplay what Rachel and Dex are doing is by lampshading, where Rachel will call attention to the fact that she is a bad person for what she's doing, but she never stops doing it. Because the story doesn't really agree that she is. But the story knows that we will think that, so if you just, keep calling attention to it, it's all good. There's even a section in the book where Rachel talks about possibly getting some sort of thrill from this affair. Is it possible that the thrill I felt when I kissed Dex had more to do with the titillation of being bad, breaking rules, having something that belonged to Darcy? Maybe my affair with Dex was about rebelling against my own safe choices, against Darcy and years of feeling deficient. I am disturbed by the idea, because you never like to think that you are a slave to these sorts of subliminal pulls. But at the same time, the idea consoles me. If I like Dex for these reasons, then I don't love him after all. And it should be a whole lot easier for me to move on. But the next day, as Ethan takes the tube with me to Paddington Station, I know again that I really do love Dex, and probably will for a very long time. What? She goes from having a moment of revelation that maybe she and Darcy aren't so different to, but I really, really love Dex, and what's important is that I love him. Something similar happens in the movie where Rachel says,
She is my best friend, and I want to be there for her. So I'm going to that wedding.
And it really doesn't make any sense. Ethan then tells her,
Then you win.
And I'm truly trying to understand what it is that she won. It's like the movie and the book don't want to be too hard on Rachel. It makes really odd narrative choices to make us be on her team, and in turn we get moments from her that just don't make sense. How is you going to your best friend's wedding after you've been fucking her fiance and lying to her face somehow make you the bigger person? What would make you the bigger person, or at least a decent person, is you just fessing up to what you did and admitting that while you haven't been happy in this friendship, you fully own up to the fact that what you did was wrong. But Rachel can't be wrong. Even when she admits these flaws about herself, Emily will quickly swing the pendulum back in the other direction. At the end, after she and Dex are finally together, we get this passage. Over the past several days, when I have felt the beginning of this emotion tugging at my heart, it has crossed my mind that the key to happiness should not be found in a man. That an independent, strong woman should feel fulfilled and whole on her own. Those things might be true. And without Dex in my life, I like to think I could have somehow found contentment. But the truth is, I feel freer with Dex than I ever did when I was single. I feel more myself with him than without. Maybe true love does that. And I do love Dex. I have loved him from the very beginning. Back in law school, when I pretended to myself that he wasn't my type. I love him for his intelligence, his sensitivity, his courage. I love him wholly and unconditionally and without reservation. I love him enough to take risks. I love him enough to sacrifice a friendship. I love him enough to accept my own happiness and use it, in turn, to make him happy back. Unconditionally and without reservation. Wow. This part makes me so angry because it's such bullshit. His sensitivity, courage, and his intelligence. He waited until the very last minute, after so much damage had already been done, to call off the wedding with your friend. Also, he's a cheater and a liar. Why am I being told that he is a stand-up guy? Like, are you actually kidding me right now? And sensitivity, again, a sensitive person would have realized immediately after the first slip-up that this engagement should be called off. A sensitive person would not proceed to plan a wedding with someone while being in love with their best friend. But like the movie and the book wants you to know that all of this is okay. Because Darcy is pregnant with Marcus's baby. And when you think about it, she betrayed 2 people, not 1. Then I think about the 4 of us. Marcus was disloyal to Dex. I was disloyal to Darcy. Dex was disloyal to Darcy. Only Darcy did something to 2 people. To me and to Dex. She is the one who was doubly disloyal. I think of my girl in the jury box. She is triumphant, pointing out this fact, telling Chanel Sue, I told you so. That is the logic that this book is operating on. Something I didn't talk about in the recap is Ethan's little side plot. We learn at the beginning that there is a woman named Claire who Ethan slept with and kicked to the curb. And because this movie loves to play into stereotypes, she is of course in love with him now because the dick was just that good. But we see Ethan, who spends the whole movie criticizing everyone else and telling Rachel to stand up for herself, struggle to tell this woman he doesn't want her and to leave him the fuck alone. It is so hard for him that he lies about being gay. She of course finds out later and is hurt. Like, Ethan is shitty to this girl because he can't just tell her the truth. And I don't even think the writers were aware of how hypocritical this was or how mean it was. It's literally there just for comic relief. Clara tells Rachel that, well, at least I tried, right? And this, I guess, inspires Rachel to tell Dex that she loves him. I'm like, okay. It's just weird that Ethan isn't called out for this. He also pressures Rachel into telling him about her affair with Dex and then yells at her for not doing what he wants her to do.
Jesus, Rachel, just leave me out of your goddamn soap opera.
No one asked for you to get involved, Ethan!
Really? So why have I been listening to this bullshit all summer?
Because you wanted to listen to it. What? Another man who doesn't get called out is Dex. Dex cheats on his fiancée with her best friend, and not once is he made to feel guilty about that, nor is he held accountable for it. Like, once the Darcy cheating plot point gets introduced, the writers decide that Dex doesn't have to feel guilty about a motherfucking thing. They straight up excuse his infidelity because Darcy was a slut, basically. And what's funny is I think the story genuinely wants us to believe that this type of cheating is okay, but not this type of cheating.
And it was nothing. You know me. It was just sex.
Like, I guess because Rachel and Dex love each other for reasons we don't know or understand because this is a poorly written story, them fooling around is more justified than Darcy just fucking Marcus because she's horny. Multiple times at the end of the book, both Rachel and Dex just keep talking about Darcy's pregnancy and use it as a way to excuse their behavior. And I just think that's interesting, you know? Like, I'm supposed to hate Darcy for representing everything we assume and hate about women. But I'm supposed to love Rachel, Dex, and Ethan for being complete selfish assholes who think they are so much better than Darcy because she's vain and they're not. Dex isn't fazed at all by having a hand in destroying this lifelong friendship. That scene where Darcy is crying and screaming at Rachel, Dex is he's just standing there giving 0 fucks. And that's what I hate about these kinds of love triangles too. There will be 2 best friends and a guy, and the guy will string along both women. The friendship implodes, and the guy gets the girl, and he is never held accountable for treating both of them like garbage, and I fucking hate it. The focus is always more on the betrayal between friends, and how could a woman choose a mister over a sister, or whatever. And it's like, okay, but he also had a hand in this. Burn him at the stake too. And then there's a line where Rachel says,
I'm really sorry you slept with my fiance.
No, I'm sorry I hurt you.
so I guess Rachel is saying that she doesn't need to feel bad because even though she hurt Darcy, this affair led to her getting the man of her dreams. So why would she feel, guilty about doing it if it led to her getting what she wanted? Which, okay, I see what she's saying here. And yeah, I mean, she already did the bad thing. She shouldn't need to eat shit for it for the rest of her life. What's done is done, but this still doesn't sit right with me. Because she then tells her that she misses her. Every day, in fact. Earlier in that scene with Ethan, she describes Darcy as...
Darcy may be whatever Darcy is. I don't know what Darcy is, but she is my best friend.
But why is she your best friend? We just spent a whole book and a movie talking about how she's a bad friend. So why are you now saying you miss her? We don't ever get a moment where Rachel gets to tell Darcy how she really feels. We never actually see her just lay it all out on the table and tell her how she has felt being in this friendship with her. We get that one scene where she tells her no, and I guess that was her growth. This last scene is supposed to show Rachel's growth and how she's more confident now, and how Darcy is still the same old Darcy because she's still trying to convince people that her life is awesome when it isn't. She continues to lie about Notre Dame and says that Rachel has been jealous of her ever since. But what sucks is that Darcy will never know that her best friend from childhood secretly envied her and resented her for years because she felt she stole Dex and Ethan from her. So Darcy really has no idea why any of this happened or where it stemmed from. The movie just wasn't interested in giving Darcy a chance to redeem herself at all. She doesn't even get to reflect on how she was a bad friend so that she can learn and be a better person. The story hates her. The whole point of them making her get pregnant at the end was just as a way to punish her for being a slut while rewarding Rachel and Tex for being equally slutty. Or doubly slutty, as one might say. Like, this story sucks, you guys. It's fucking mean-spirited. And I think that's why this story has stuck with me all these years. The story just feels weirdly mean and unfair and arrogant. And I hate it. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye. So in my Sims game, when I was having my Sims act out the scenes from the movie, Darcy got so angry watching Rachel and Tex together that she went into cardiac arrest. And that's how the movie should have ended.